Hi, I'm Amanda with Cronus, and we're here with our CEO, David Satterwhite, today. And we really want to get into exploring more of how Cronus is getting into employee-driven development specifically. But before we get into that, David, I want to talk about why we feel employee-driven development is so important in the workplace today. And this is kind of the reasoning for it all is because, we've been talking to customers, we've seen this, in the marketplace, talking to prospects, we've even seen it in our internal organization from time to time. But the workplace today is going through a bit of this organizational connection crisis, if you will. And, to better understand what that means, kind of take us through that and how we're seeing it in today's workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. Starting, 10, 15 years ago, companies started to do some of these surveys. Some of these firms started to do some of these surveys of employees. And I started to really get focused on this challenge, which is that 3 out of 4, 75% or more of employees globally, when asked, are they engaged from an employment standpoint, said no. So there's this massive percentage of employees globally that are disengaged. And when you think about the staggering loss in productivity that's happening globally because these employees are not engaged, not to mention the fact that they're not fulfilled and not living their best life, not being engaged in their employment. But from a pure company perspective or organization perspective, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a school, it could be a government. It's a massive issue. And when you double click on what's happening here, when you read the studies and you start to try to parse out what's happening, why are these people disconnected, and this disconnection crisis you talk about, this disengagement, a few things surface very consistently. One, and it's not compensation, by the way. It's feeling like they're not being developed. It's feeling like they're not connected. It's feeling like they're not aware of the purpose of the company and how they match up with that. Sometimes there's management effectiveness that's engaged. But there's really specific things that that lead to this problem, and we at Cronus really believe strongly that companies and organizations can't reach their greatest potential if their employees don't, if their people, their team isn't reaching their full potential, and so we provide a platform that is employee driven because most companies, organizations really don't have the resources to throw the tons of people on this problem. We provide a solution, a platform that allows employees to really drive some of the answers to some of these challenges. Specifically in our platform, we have a mentoring module that helps you match up with mentees and mentors and tracks the success and all kinds of things to really drive mentorship in a scalable, equitable, secure manner, which is real important for larger organizations, so that you can really develop employees. Because I know for me and my career, mentorship, whether I'm mentoring or I'm being mentored, has been one of the biggest ways that I've been developed, and that's what we've seen when we've talked to our customers and looked at the data. ERGs, employee resource groups, are a really great way to connect people in your company, in your organization, with other people that they identify with. And you can decide what those groups are in conjunction with your employees. And then that gives them a way to connect well effectively. I have, once again, in my career, just had some really good experiences being involved with employee resource groups, whether it's been a sponsorship role or engaged or speaker or what have you, just helping out with those groups. And as we go, that platform will grow. We will bring more solutions to our platform, to our customers that can help with this problem.
Well, I think you bring up a huge thing both on multiple fronts, but first is the idea that there is a problem. Organizations probably already recognize it or are already feeling it, and they don't have the resources or the people power to necessarily bring an additional set of people in to solve it, you know? So the fact that they're able to activate their people inside their organization already to help engage and re-engage their other employees, you know, is kind of a huge benefit to this factor. And it goes beyond, you know, a work happy hour or a work time virtual game or the things, you know, we've been doing and we've done a lot since the pandemic to try and get people socially engaged. It gets you engaged with another person in the organization and still focused on your development and therefore the organization's development. And that's kind of what, you know, you and I have talked about is so important about that employee driven development aspect.
Yeah. You no longer can count on these things happening by accident in the office. I don't know if you ever could. You know, it was never consistent. It was never scalable. It was never equitable. It was never inclusive. It never, you know, encapsulated all the employees that you have that could take advantage of mentorship and these kinds of connections. You know, it really meant that only really assertive employees were the ones that typically benefited from some of these types of connections and mentorship and what have you. For us to really tackle this disconnection problem, we've got to have a much more systematic approach that, right to your point, Amanda, enables employees to be part of the solution for the disconnection.
One allows them to drive that piece of it as well, you know, take ownership of it, which I think is so important. But even if, you know, someone's listening to this and they say, okay, David, you know, okay, I buy it. You know, people are more connected. That's great. But like, how is that going to help us meet our goals and objectives as a company? You know, how does that really drive all the way down? You know, how do you look at it with regards to kind of that ROI aspect?
It's just staggering if you just do a little bit of math. Let's just say for a second, like that your company is not like any other company. Instead of 75% disengaged, you've only got 50% disengaged. So great. 50% of your people are not engaged. Do we really think that they're productive being unengaged? What does unengaged mean? It probably means they're looking somewhere else. Another poll just came out 2 weeks ago, said 93% of tech workers in this case are either looking for a job or open to look at another job if asked. So this is going on in an epidemic way. And so getting in and helping connect people and helping develop people will have a massive impact on productivity in your organization because they're engaged and giving you their full selves and reaching their full potential. How can any one of us say that we give our best when we're not engaged and feeling connected in the organization that we work?
Yeah, I think everything you're saying about the impact on employee engagement from this employee-driven development approach, it makes a ton of sense. And not just letting it happen or hoping it happens, or like you said, maybe it would happen around the water cooler previously, but it's kind of this formalizing with mentoring and with employee resource groups to give your entire population access to these opportunities in a structured, standardized way that everyone is getting access to and that everyone is experiencing in a similar fashion, so that you're reaching out and tapping, you know, employee populations that may not have had the chance before or stepped up for the chance before, and that you're really saying, hey, we want to do this for everyone at every stage of the employee journey.
It really gives you the best of both worlds because, right to your point, it's systematic, it's inclusive, it's scalable, it's formal, it's company owned. That means you can track the data, you can inspect how it's going, how many people are we impacting, how much benefit are we getting. At the same time, it's employee driven. So instead of having, 15 people from HR having to manage the process and making sure everybody's doing, or 50 people, depending on the size of your company, having to manage the whole thing, the platform does it. So that a very small amount of resource can be leveraged for a very formal system and platform that reaches your whole employee base.
All right. Well, thank you, David, for joining us today. We certainly appreciate your insight. And we invite any of you to learn more about employee-driven development at Cronus.com and check out all of our mentoring and ERG resources for all of your development needs. We'll see you again next time.